Hello, my name is Jean Béliveau, and it is the 8th of August 2026. And I have this speech for you. It's about before the pentagram, the necessary boundaries. When I when the search for the divine must remain faithful to reason, dignity, and freedom, that is it. Now, before I speak about my vision of the pentagram of consciousness, I need to speak about something much simpler, a boundary. Because before we build an architecture of thought, there are moments when we must be able to say, this is as far as I can go. With you. I cannot go any further. That is not necessary. That is not necessarily a rejection of another person. It is not necessarily a condemnation, and it certainly does not have to be a declaration of war against people who think differently from us. Sometimes it is simply the recognition of an inner boundary. Yeah. A boundary that allows us to remain faithful to our conscience. Next step is the search for the divine. I understand the human desire to search for the divine. For thousands of years, men and women have tried to understand what lies beyond themselves. They have searched for God. They have searched for the sacred. They have searched for an origin. They have searched for meaning. Yeah. They have searched for a presence capable of giving directions to their.
Giving veut dire donner en anglais.
I'm sorry. Okay. Yep. For their. Okay. I lost my place. I'm sorry. For their. Yes. So they have searched for a presence capable of giving directions to their existence. I deeply respect that search, but respecting a spiritual search does not mean that I must accept every way of interpreting it. And this is where my own journey encountered a difficulty. At certain points, I felt that search, I felt that the search for the divine could become to move towards something else, like toward power, or toward desire, toward possession, toward the sensual and worldly, or simply toward worldly concerns that eventually take over everything else. And I had to ask myself one question. At what point does the search for the divine stop elevating us and begin moving us away from that, from what we are actually seeking? So now, saying no is not disrespect. For a long time, we can be diplomatic. Yes, we can be patient. We can listen. We can try to understand, and these are valuable questions. That is, these are valuable qualities. I'm sorry. So, but diplomacy must become, must not become, must not become complacency, because there comes a moment when saying nothing means accepting something that our conscience does not accept. Then we must be able to say, no, I cannot follow this direction, and say clearly, and say it clearly, without hatred, without hum, humiliate. I got this problem about that humiliation, and without contempt, but clearly, because truth does not need aggression in order to be firm. A person can say no without hating the person they are saying it to. Um, a person can establish a boundary without declaring the other person evil. And two people can follow different paths without becoming enemies. And now for reason as a safeguard. For me, reason plays an essential role here. Spirituality can often can open extra, extraordinary questions, but it should not require us to abandon our ability to think. If a spiritual idea requires us to completely give up logic in order to accept it, I believe it is legitimate to step back. If a claim can never be questioned, I believe we should be cautious. If a belief asks us to surrender our dignity, our freedom, or our judgment, we must know when to stop. Spirituality can be beyond what we know, but going beyond what we know does not mean abandoning what we do know. The distinction is fundamental. Mystery may begin where knowledge ends, but mystery should not require us to pretend that we know what we don't know. So, yeah. And the next thing is the divine and the symbolic. This is also why I have chosen to speak about the divine thought. Oh no, the divine through symbolic language. Mhm. Okay. When I speak of the son of Zeus, Jean the Magnificent, I present a spiritual construction that belongs to my own vision. I do not ask anyone to automatically believe that a metaphysical statement is a proven scientific fact. I offer a symbol, a representation, a way of thinking about consciousness, wisdom, responsibility, and our relationship with what which transcends us. And this distinction matters because a symbol can be powerful without pretending to be scientific proof. An image can transform us. A story can teach us. A metaphor can help us understand. But a metaphor remains a metaphor. And a belief remains a belief when when it cannot be demonstrated. This honestly does not necessarily diminish spirituality. On the contrary, it can give spirituality a form of maturity. The next is I respect your path. I therefore want to say something very clearly to people who hold a different vision. I respect your path. That is, I respect your search. I respect your faith. I respect your desire to understand the divine. I even respect traditions with which I disagree. But I ask for the same respect in return. I do not want to prevent you from following your path. And I do not want you to prevent me from following mine. If our vision can meet in respectful dialogue, then let us dialogue. If we can learn from one another, then let us learn. If we discover that we share certain values, let us build something together. But if we discover that our paths are incompatible on fundamental points, then there is another solution. We can each continue on our own path without hatred, without domination, without trying to convert the other through pressure. The end of complacency. I no longer want to confuse kindness with abandoning my convictions. I can be kind. I can be empathetic. I can listen. I can understand. But I can also say, I disagree. And that sentence can be spoken with respect. It can even be an expression of respect. Because if I pretend to agree simply to avoid conflict, I respect neither the other person nor myself. An authentic relationship can survive disagreement. A strong idea can withstand criticism. A mature spirituality can withstand questions. And a free person must be able to say no. Why the pentagram comes next. This is precisely why the pentagram of consciousness comes next. Before building, you must establish foundations. Because speaking about universal consciousness, yes, before talking about universal consciousness, we must preserve individual conscience. Before speaking about spirituality, we must preserve freedom of conscience. Before speaking about unity, we must respect diversity. And before speaking about wisdom, we must accept that we do not know everything. And before speaking about power, we must speak about responsibility. The pentagram is therefore not an attempt to mix everything together. It is an attempt to give each dimension its proper place. The spiritual, the human, the technological, the ecological, and the multi-convictional. Each has its own function. None should destroy the other. A separation that can become respect. Perhaps the greatest wisdom is not always seeking, no, suc- succeeding in convincing someone. Perhaps sometimes wisdom means recognizing we don't we do not see the world in the same way. And continuing to respect each other anyway. I can continue on my path. You can continue on yours. And if our paths cross again someday, we can still speak to one another. Because a difference in visions should not automatically become a difference in dignity. The conclusion of all this is the freedom to search. I will end with a simple conviction. I believe human beings should be free to search for the divine. But they must also be free to search without being forced. They must be free to believe, free to doubt, free to interpret, free to change their minds, free to say yes, and free to say no. For me, this is what truly respecting human conscience means. It is, and it is on this fundamental, no, sorry, and it is on this foundation that I want to build the next part of my journey, not on coercion, not on complacency, not on the claim that I possess I possess all the answers, but on an honest search. I do not claim to have closed the book of the divine. I want to keep it reading. I want to keep reading it. I want to keep questioning it. I want to keep searching. But I want to do but I want to do with both feet on the ground and an open mind, an awakened reason, and a free conscience. Yes, but I want to do so with both feet on the ground, an open mind, an awakened reason, and a free conscience. And if someone wants to walk with me, I will open the door. If someone wants to take another path, I will respect their choice. Because true freedom does not mean forcing everyone to walk in the same direction. It means allowing each person to search for truth without losing their dignity along along the way. And it is on this foundation that I now present the pentagram of consciousness. Thank you for tonight.